Hello and welcome to Undercurrent. I'm Lucy Marchant. Perth hosted a 2016 Veterans Asian Fencing Masters this week. Competitors travelled from countries such as Japan, Iran and New Zealand to participate in the championships. The Undercurrent team went to check it out.
The Asian Masters Fencing Championships, hosted here in Western Australia. Countries from around the globe have come here for this outstanding competition, and Undercurrent came along and took a look, and the finals are on now.
Today we're at the Asian Masters Fencing Championship and also the Oceania Veterans Fencing Championship. So it's a competition incorporating fencers over the age of 35 for women and 40 for men from across Asia and Oceania. This is the first time we've hosted this event, but we run national competitions 4 or 5 times a year, which again are fairly big.
What is the appeal of fencing?
Fencing is a very different sport from many other sports. It has a lot of excitement and it exercises your body and your mind, so there's a great deal of strategy involved, and it is you versus an opponent, so you have no team or sort of other people that you can blame or rely upon. It's you versus the opponent. Fencing is often referred to as lightning chess because it has that mix of speed and power, but also the need to use your brain. So it's a very exciting sport for that reason. There's 3 different weapons that we fence at Olympic level. So there is foil, épée and sabre. Foil, the target is just the torso area and has a right of way, so it means if one person's attacking, then the other person should defend before hitting back. And it's a point weapon, which means that you have to stab your opponent, you have to hit them with the tip. The second weapon, épée, is also a point weapon, but the body is the whole target, and épée is based on the concept of dueling. The third weapon is sabre, and that's a cutting weapon, and so the target is everything from the hips upwards because it's based on the cavalry sword, and it's a cutting weapon, so you can hit with the blade or the point.
What sort of physical strength do you need?
You don't need to be physically strong, but you do need to be able to accelerate and change direction and maintain your balance. And so the art of fencing is maintaining your balance and maintaining your distance and picking just the right moment to attack and defend to get the better of your opponent.
Can you tell us about some of the competitors that are here?
So for the Masters competition in particular, we've got big teams from Japan, Hong Kong, Iran, the Philippines and of course Australia, as well as some fencers from New Zealand, French Polynesia, Chinese Taipei and Uzbekistan. So we've got a fair number of people. The Iranian team is very strong. They've won a number of events and have been in a number of the team finals. Australia obviously has been very strong this competition because we're hosting it, so we've been able to bring in our top fencers and strong numbers. And the Japanese team as well has had a number of strong fencers and winning some age categories.
I think, seeing the partnership here between all of the Asian countries and Australia and New Zealand, everybody coming together here, I think it's amazingly wonderful for fencing because not only are people getting a great competitive environment, and the numbers here have been amazing, they're also getting to meet and form relationships with people from other countries where they could go train or bout or go to competitions. So I think that's really special. And I have to say, the spirit and friendliness of the athletes here and the willingness of the referees to accept feedback has been nothing short of amazing.
Have you had a lot of support?
There's been a lot of support both from international bodies. So the International Federation gave the AFF a grant to assist with the running of the competition, and Fencing WA has had a lot of sponsors, the WA government and some others who have provided support, monetary and other, for the event. So there's been that, and also quite a big crowd of supporters from within the fencing community of WA here helping out, volunteering, supporting and assisting in the running of the competition.
And what is so appealing about the sport?
There's a couple things. One, it's amazing activity and exercise. It is that that kind of thinking sport, but also in a world where, not every child is going to play a team sport. Like football or rugby, and not every kid is suited to that. I think fencing is a special place for athletes who are amazing athletes who really want to do an individual sport where if they're willing to put in the training, they're always going to get to play. Nobody's sitting on the sidelines. If you want to come to this sport, if you're a parent and want your kid to be athletic, they're always going to get a chance to be athletic in this sport, and I think that's unbelievably special.
Angela Albuquerque for Undercurrent.
Pet goldfish dumped in rivers are growing up to 10 times their normal size and damaging freshwater ecosystems around the world, including our rivers and lakes here in Perth. James Burnside with the report.
When we think of terrifying, dangerous creatures in Australia's waters, the common goldfish probably isn't one of them. But what is the damage and the danger these fish pose? I spoke to Dr. Stephen Beattie at Murdoch University to get the answers.
Well, in the VOX River down in Busselton, where the really large goldfish population is, it's basically driven by the amount of food availability and the nutrients in the water. So goldfish are a benthic omnivore, so they move along the bottom, basically consuming anything they can get their mouths on. And the more nutrients that come into the waterways through urban development, so fertilising lawns and agriculture, so nutrients that are put onto agricultural lands can flush into the rivers, creates a really nutrient-rich environment which drives algal growth and drives productivity, and the goldfish have really taken advantage of that down in Busselton. Also, flow regulation creates a sort of a still environment, and goldfish really enjoy a still environment as well. So lakes and ponds, and the lower VOX River doesn't get the flushing that it once did. Goldfish have a few different impacts. It's really quite difficult to quantify impacts of introduced freshwater fish because they can be quite unpredictable, particularly when you get an omnivore like the goldfish that can basically eat anything that's available, so invertebrates, fish eggs, plants, such as algae. So goldfish can cruise on the bottom, they can stir up the sediment, so putting nutrients back into the water column, that algal growth can work off that. They can consume the fish eggs, but also we found they can also introduce disease as well. And that's something that is a really unexpected impact, and it's very difficult to predict what sort of diseases that can come in from aquarium species in general and goldfish specifically.
Do you believe there can be a long-term solution to prevent further incidents like this from happening again?
Well, education's the key, really. I mean, once a freshwater fish becomes established, so it's self-maintaining and breeding particularly in a river environment where you can't actually drain it, and they're very difficult to eradicate. And quite often they're impossible to eradicate, and the best that we can hope for is to control their abundances and control their impact. So the long-term solution is really getting the message out there not to introduce any new freshwater fish into the Western Australian rivers and wetlands. And that just comes through community education, educating school children who can educate their parents, for instance, that it's not a good idea to release something from the aquarium that doesn't look like it, it's cute and cuddly in the aquarium environment, but once it gets out there, it can have an unexpected impact. Another good example, so goldfish aren't the worst offender in the southwest. We've now got more introduced freshwater fish species and native freshwater fish species in the southwest, which is a really concerning trend. Little eastern gambusia, which is a North American species, a really aggressive species that's related to the guppy, can fin nip native freshwater fish tails. It's causing havoc in the southwest, and that's a globally introduced freshwater fish just like goldfish. Redfin perch or Eurasian perch, big consumer of our native freshwater fish and also crayfish. They love eating our iconic marron as well. So there's other ones out there that are actually worse than goldfish, but the way we sort of educate the public is if the public, their imagination is captured by large goldfish that we control, then maybe we can get the message out there that any other introduced species shouldn't be introduced because they can have really unexpected impacts. The VOX River population, they do get football sized, and people associate goldfish being really small. So I guess the only positive thing about goldfish in our environment is the fact that we've been able to use this, use our research and the tracking study that we've just published to educate the people that the community that even though you don't think something might have an impact by putting it into your local wetland, quite often they can have an impact and have a really unexpected impact on the environment. So the only positive thing about goldfish really is the fact that the attention on this story has been pretty phenomenal, and we hope that that's sort of getting the message out there to not introduce freshwater fish that aren't supposed to be there.
I am James Burnside reporting for Undercurrent.
If you think your gas bill is too high, you're not alone. Gas prices in Australia are the highest in the world, and it is hard to understand why, since Australia exports the most gas to the rest of the world and for the cheapest prices. Bas Tadros finds out your thoughts.
Australia is on the brink of becoming the world's biggest exporter of liquid petroleum gas, or LPG. But thanks to falling global gas prices, much of that gas is now being exported at a net loss, meaning very little tax for government coffers.
And the LNG boom also has a sting in the tail for domestic gas users. Before Australia had a viable gas export market, local consumers enjoyed decades of cheap and abundant supplies. But now that the export market is being developed, it's already showing up in higher bills.
We're taking to the streets of Perth to find out why it seems Australian gas prices are going up in Australia compared to overseas. Australia is one of the largest exporters of natural gas, and when you compare it to places like Japan, where we export to, when you take into consideration shipment costs, logistics, it doesn't make sense that we'd be more expensive here in Australia as the exporter by 60%.
I don't get it, do you?
I generally consider everything over here to be a little bit expensive based on the fact that we're isolated, but I think it's a bit shocking when it comes to something that we're the exporter of in the first place.
Well, I know that my gas bill has gone up this winter.
We're exporting it for a lot cheaper, so why can't we get the same prices that it's exported for?
It's the deals that were done in the first place, and you've got to ask, why does our gas coming out of Western Australia cost us more than it does overseas?
Australian gas has been hit by another problem. The price of its long-term contracts is pegged to the price of oil. And in the past 6 months, due largely to Saudi Arabia, the oil price has crashed.
These plants sell their product by long-term contract, but there's also a cap and a floor, and they are closely guarded secrets. So we know that oil prices have halved, but we're not really sure what exactly is being received for the gas that's sold.
Yeah, talk to the lawyers. They're the ones who did it.
I mean, it all comes down to our government. I don't sort of feel like we've had a government that's done us justice in decades.
Maybe if it wasn't privatised, that could bring it down?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, you get a lot of things that come and go with that, but I guess it's probably a start.
I think government would mess it up if they owned it. I think they're the reason that we're paying too much now.
They've got a linter, but they've also got clean heat at the moment. So I know a lot of people are switching to that. I myself have actually thought of doing, because I think it's like a 10% discount. So I don't know, maybe if there was more competition. There's not enough competition with regards to gas and electricity, etc. So maybe some more competition would benefit us all.
The gas should be used for the benefit of Australia, and I think that we're stewards of it and we should use it wisely. But I can't see that us being charged more than someone in another country is wise. I can't see it. I don't know how that got worked out.
Bas Tadros for Undercurrent.
Stay with us for more Undercurrent after a short break. Welcome back to Undercurrent. Perth's 2016 Miss Africa held a high tea fundraiser with funds going towards a children's orphanage in Kenya to give the children an education and the chance at reaching their goals and dreams. Angela Albuquerque.
Movers and shakers within the Kenyan community came out in full force at the weekend to support Miss Africa 2016 as she held a high tea fundraiser to raise monies for HIV orphans in Kenya. Undercurrent came along and took a look.
I'm lost of words for the turnout today. I didn't expect there to be like so many faces and so many smiles and so much support. And I think that's what matters. What matters is the community spirit that we have, and just that giving spirit. When we are called to do something, it's up to each and every one of us to just raise your hand. Let's be the courageous generation that just, put ourselves out there. We put ourselves at risk, but with that risk that we take, whatever we lose, we get blessed. The Bible says it's much more blessed to give than to receive.
Hello everyone.
Miss Africa Paired is a platform where young African girls are trained to become influential members of the society. And I was lucky to be crowned this year as the Miss Africa Paired 2016. The fundraiser event that I'm looking at this year is a fundraiser to help young children back home, where I come from, Kenya, in a county known as Maragua Ridge. I met a man in 2009 who looks after children. After his brother's wife passed on, he took his brother's children, and in the process of looking after his brother's children, he thought about other children in the community who would have lost their parent, either a single parent or both parents, and so he started an orphanage for those children. Therefore, I managed to get in touch with him this year, and he's managed to move on to the community, and he's looking after children who are affected with HIV/AIDS, who are living in the community with their guardians, they either be auntie or grandparents. So my project this year is to help him with those children, to help those children access to education and good basic needs, such as uniform, shoes, clothes, and other things that would empower them in the future for them to become everything that they dreamt of becoming.
We are with you all the way, assisting children in need. I think it's very important that we continue with the spirit of extended families that that is one of the most wonderful values of African life. We are extended uncles, brothers, sisters of these children. They are to be kind when no one is watching. We don't need to be seen or to show off when we are trying to do something good. Let's sponsor these children. $10 a month, $100 a month, and we make a difference. The children of Africa need us. We do not all the time need World Vision or the Red Cross or these large institutions to do something for our own brothers and sisters, for our children, for our grandchildren. We can do it.
I am just a child with HIV. People are blind. I wish they could see. It wasn't my fault, those illness I got, but people say it's easily caught. You can hold my hand and give me a hug. All I want is a little love.
Roughly 24 million people are stricken. We are made to be united, a collection, helping one another to secure a spot in heaven. All children of Adam, we are put on this world to serve God through service of people. The end, there is no end, because there is no sequel. Thank you.
You find there are a lot of people out there who want to help good causes, but they don't know how to. They haven't got access to those, either they haven't got access to children who they can help or to people that they can help. Therefore, me coming out here and explaining my cause to the people, I feel like it's a good point for them, for the people who've always wanted to do something, and this is a time for them to actualize their dreams.
Angela Albuquerque for Undercurrent.
Workplace stress affects professionals in a wide range of occupations. It can be detrimental to mental health and well-being, but also to work productivity. Bas Tadros.
Today I'm going to be talking to someone who's a great leader in his own right, and he's been rolling out a mindfulness program in his workplace to ensure that his staff are not only kept happy and well engaged for the workplace, but then they could go home and be the same engaged, same enthusiastic individual that comes back to work again the next day. So we'll be asking him how he does this and how he's found this program to impact his workplace.
My opinion on workplace stress and culture is it is literally everything. If we don't have a good workplace culture and it's based on stress, then the congruency of that to our customers when they walk in the store is huge. So first of all, we need to figure out what makes a good workplace culture, which is usually based on a learning and empowerment structure, and making sure that our team are engaged. Organisations that concentrate on the bottom line usually flog their staff to death. They're not actually looking at improving or nurturing their staff, not just in their work life, but in their personal life. The best way to find out what's stressing your workers out is purely to ask. Find out what are the parts of the job that they really dislike, find out the parts of the job that they really do like, accentuate one and get rid of the other. It is really that simple. This is something that needs to be constant. It's not something that you ask once a year. A lot of businesses will do a review once a year, whereas we'll find out about their life every month. So if we find out every month what's going on, how they're feeling, what they normally know where they're going wrong and what they need improvement on. So by asking, we can find out exactly what they need help with and then work a structure around that.
Now, what's some of the exciting things that you've recently basically enrolled your staff into?
Yeah, well, we've just started a 10-week emotional intelligence program, which includes mindfulness, building compassion. These are things that people have in them, but it's like a muscle. The more we use it, the more we accentuate it, the better we become at it. It's about them using the correct emotions at the correct time to get the best possible outcome. The outcome that I see is an improvement in every aspect of their life. Obviously, there's certain KPIs that we're looking at within this course, and because they've done the goal setting before they've started, they will know within that 10 weeks whether they have a decisive improvement in those areas of their life. And that's the bit that I'm most excited about.
And if you had a message for all the leaders out there, the managers, the middle managements, maybe the executive team of organisations, what would your message be as a leader?
Search, 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 search. Look for new ways of leadership, look for new ways of management, because the kids coming through now, they think differently all the time. They think differently to even my generation. And being able to identify and be congruent with the way that they are as people and adapting to that is how you're going to get the best of the cream of the crop coming up. And they need to feel like they're learning and that they're in a company of growth. Because, as you know, the last thing that anyone wants is to feel stagnant in their role.
Bas Tadros for Undercurrent.
Cinefest Oz 2016 was a great success as young filmmakers were able to express their views and be heard by industry professionals. Angela Albuquerque went along and found out more.
I'm here at Cinefest Oz in Busselton for the Game Changers Day. Industry professionals and young filmmakers getting together to try and push through the gateway to create change for young filmmakers.
This entire day was actually setting up a Game Changers group so that us personally, even though we come up with these ideas, we're actually accountable for what we've discussed and how we as a group will now move and meet. So just that idea of actually putting filmmaking in, bringing the community, inviting them to be a part of it and actually
And if it was
that.
integrated with something like Fringe or something like PF, and we actually it was quite a high profile event, and it doesn't have to be highbrow. In fact, I think it most definitely won't be highbrow, but it's bringing the already existing community of filmmakers in Perth together to have some fun. It's also, like David said, networking, with working with different people, maybe like random film groups get assigned, something like that. One thing that we really acknowledged was the camaraderie that is present in WA. But the one thing that we just kept coming back to was what an amazing community there is here of young filmmakers. And we tried to look at that and go, okay, that's great. That's something that we have in WA. How can we make a rainbow from that? How can we utilise that to actually get end product?
I am Matt Lovekiss. I've got a company called Mad Kids with Henry Inglis and Lauren Elliott. I'm a writer, director, performer, and we focus on comedy, basically. That's what we do. Yeah.
How did you get started?
Just doing it. Just doing it. I did some stand-up, I did sort of musical comedy and all sorts of stuff. I did radio, and I did a film and TV degree, creative writing degree, and and then just kept making stuff. Just not stopping, I think, is really one of the principal ideas in doing something.
My name is Jub Clare. I'm the Indigenous Film Coordinator for Cinefest Oz, and I'm also a filmmaker. I was a recipient of the Feature Navigator initiative through Screen West, which is a year-long initiative, pretty much like a wish list of all the things that I'd like to do to develop myself as a director and to the next step to my feature film.
I'm Daniel James Tenney. I'm a producer.
And you've just come back from Korea, I hear.
Yeah, yesterday morning, so I'm a little bit tired. Just kind of running on adrenaline and nicotine and caffeine.
What have you been up to?
So we went over to Korea, where we were nominated for a few awards at K-Webfest, which is a big thing they're doing over there. They're building a big kind of VOD platform and focusing on web series. And they're really throwing a lot of money at it, so they see it as an industry that could take off. So it's really exciting to be over there, and we picked up a couple of gongs as well, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, so that was nice.
So my name is Jesse Laurie, and I am the creator of Have You, I suppose.
And you're an emerging creative in that you're pushing through the gates. Tell us about what you're doing.
Realised that there probably wasn't as much of a specific platform for emerging filmmakers to launch themselves and gain the necessary exposure to take that step, and that's where the creation of the new streaming platform Have You came about, which caters to promoting emerging filmmakers from Australia and their content. All filmmakers, when we're making out, we're all in the same position, and everyone who's taken that next step into the top tier kind of realm, they were once in our position as well. And I can imagine that old and young would all wish there were that one platform for us to strut our stuff and show what we really can do.
So how did you get interested in filmmaking?
Complete accident. I was meant to be a lawyer and a journalist, and I decided that I wanted to enjoy my life. I can't say that. No, I went to TAFE, studied it for 6 months, kind of just as a way to pass the time, and then ended up falling in love with it. Loved the way that the language was, like the visual language, and just kind of loved the possibilities of what you can make with a film. You can kind of create your own reality, which is awesome.
Well, at the moment I'm a producing student at the WA Screen Academy, so after I graduate I hopefully get into more short films and then later on features. It's very challenging, but it's great when you see it on screen and you see like, I did that, and that's what makes me really excited.
Mostly my parents that had to deal with an entire TV show being made from the carport and the dining room and the kitchen.
Angela Albuquerque for Undercurrent.
Thank you for watching this episode of Undercurrent. Don't forget to catch up with us online at wtvperf.com.au. Take care, and we'll see you next time.